From the land of pot dish, jello salad, the businesses invested in by Sean Connery. This is Minnesota Unknown.
Each episode, we'll take a deep dive into Minnesota's storied past, with a special emphasis on the surprising, the unusual, and little-known history hidden in plain sight.
I'm Josie Bergman.
I'm Alex Weston.
And I'm Hannah Norton.
And we are
Minnesota Unknown. This is Minnesota Unknown. And today, we're going to talk about what I recently discovered to be the birthplace of the cream cheese wonton. Any guesses on where that might be?
I mean, this is maybe naive, but I usually order cream cheese wontons at Chinese restaurants or other Asian restaurants. Are they not an Asian delicacy originally?
Okay, my confusion with cream cheese wontons is always this. I didn't know, and I guess I still don't really understand. There's crab rangoons, and there's cream cheese wontons.
Right.
I started with the cream cheese wonton because it was more palatable to me.
Yes.
But since then, I have become accustomed to a crab rangoon.
You've expanded into.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a gateway drug.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I think what's interesting for me is I'd never heard of a crab rangoon until probably the age of 20.
This is the first I'm hearing of crab rangoon right here, right now.
Is this real?
For you?
For me, real.
Wow.
Now, to be fair, I can't stand anything that comes from the sea. So anything crab, you shouldn't eat that.
Well, I accept you for who you are.
So crab rangoons, cream cheese
rangoons.
wontons, there's a difference there.
There's a difference. So
Alex doesn't even know either of them exist.
Oh, I'm aware of cream cheese wontons.
yeah. So I've always had them, and like you, Alex, I've always gotten them. Like anytime I'm getting Chinese or I think Thai food, which is interesting.
Yep.
If there's a cream cheese puff or cream cheese wonton or some sort of vehicle for fried cream cheese, I'm getting it.
Yeah.
It's a lovely thing. And I always, like you, kind of assumed that it wasn't, like, obviously this is not, we can't trace this recipe back to ancient China. Like, this is not a cultural
I was actually
treasure.
being flippant. I assumed it was an American invention, but I assumed it was as old as any of the other sort of staples of American Chinese food.
And, like, I guess I always assumed that it was from the West Coast because I felt like there was a lot of Chinese immigrants out that way from like railroads and stuff. And so there's a lot of Chinese American fusion kind of innovations happening that were more out west. And so if you had asked me, I would have said probably like San Francisco.
Of all the places I would assume it started, the last place I would think is Minnesota. But because we're a Minnesota-based podcast, I'm guessing you have news for me.
Yeah. So picture my shock. Hannah and I, hand in hand, skip into a kind of Minnesota icon, Leeann Chin's. And on the wall, I see a giant photo and it says home of the cream cheese wonton. And I go, this can't be correct. And so that led me to be like, hey, actually, what is the history of Leeann Chin's? Because in my head, this is a global chain of restaurants that everybody knows and loves. And what I learned was it's pretty much only in Minnesota, and it was actually founded by Leeann Chin, who was
A real person?
a real person.
Okay,
Cool.
so since apparently it's not known to everyone, and I know that we at least have some followers in states in the Midwest that are not Minnesota, let us describe Leeann Chin.
Growing up in the Twin Cities, Leeann Chin is just one of those chains that's all over. So you would see one in every mall. You would see one in, every city. There'd be a Leeann Chin, and some grocery stores. I feel like Lund's had a Leeann Chin's in it. Maybe some others did. But it's just one of those brands that was around. So to me, it was like Arby's or McDonald's or Burger King or Chipotle or whatever. It's just one of those chains that you see everywhere.
And the food is like somewhat similar, although in my opinion, much better than P.F. Chang's or Panda Express.
It's comparable to P.F. Chang's or Panda Express something. I agree it's better.
Yeah.
But you would expect to find a Leeann Chin's in exactly the same places you would expect to find a Panda Express.
Right. It's buffet style, like kind of you get your plate, you get like 2 sides and a main or something like that. It's very much like of the fast food.
Yeah.
variety.
And there's all the sorts of normal things you'd expect to find at any American Chinese food restaurant, including cream cheese wontons.
Yeah. It's kind of exactly what you want when you want fast casual Chinese food.
And I want fast casual Chinese food all the time.
Yeah, so do I. They call me the Lo-maniac.
Yeah. So you and I both grew up in an area full of Leeann Chin's.
Full of them.
And therefore just assumed it was one of those national things that's everywhere, because so much of American businesses are these kind of national monoculture, but it turns out it is a specifically regional thing.
Yeah, it's kind of severely Minnesotan.
Okay, but here's the interesting thing, because I did not grow up in an area where they're prevalent. And they're so prevalent here that I just had kind of assumed they're everywhere.
Because if you live in the Twin Cities metro area, they're as prevalent as these big national chains.
There's 39 locations, which is like not that many.
No.
Are there any locations at all outside of Minnesota?
Yes. So there's one in the Atlanta airport, and there's one in the Baltimore airport. So, and those are major Delta hubs.
Yeah. So they're spreading along with Delta.
Yeah. And then there's one in the Dakota Square Mall in Minot, North Dakota, and then Fargo.
Okay, so Leeann Chin is a mostly Minnesota chain. But what did you find out about the invention of the cream cheese wonton?
I can't find, like, I was searching Leeann Chin's. I was searching cream cheese wonton. I was searching all kinds of things to try to find, like, the press release when they unveiled the cream cheese wonton.
The ticket tape parade.
Yeah, because a lot of companies will do like a now announcing, and I can't find it. But when you Google like who invented the cream cheese wonton, people are saying Leeann Chin's, and they claim it in the restaurant. So then that led me to wonder, like, what is a cream cheese wonton a departure off of? And it's a departure of crab rangoons.
Now I'm doubting everything I once thought to be true.
Okay.
Are cream cheese wontons popular outside of Minnesota?
I don't think so. Because, so here's the thing. My mom has a friend who grew up in Minnesota, moved to a different place. First thing he did when he came back into town was go, thank God I can get a cream cheese wonton. You can't get these anywhere. He says you can only get crab rangoons. No one else is doing cream cheese wontons.
Actually, now that you talk about that, I guess I really never heard them referred to as cream cheese wontons until I got here. That I can remember. I mean, it was usually crab rangoons.
Yeah. So that then kind of led me down a different rabbit hole where I was just like, where are crab rangoons from? And it turns out they're from Trader Vic's in Beverly Hills in 1955.
That's like the iconic tiki bar that like started the trend, right?
Yeah, because surely this like fried rangoon wrapper around cream cheese is not like an authentic Chinese food staple.
And it also feels like a very 1950s food. Like this feels like something you'd have in a basement of like a weird 1950s party
where it like really smells smoky.
In your rumpus room. Like there's something about like the cream cheese of it all that I'm just like, this isn't.
Next to the Jell-O mold.
And so it must have been that someone at some point, probably to Leeann Chin or herself, was like, these crab rangoons are great. Midwest is not going to want to eat crab. They're going to want that out.
I guess if you're trying to do like a fresh crab rangoon or something like that, the West Coast, it's very different.
It's easier than in Minnesota.
And cheaper.
It does feel like specifically this is Asian food adapting itself to the American Midwest.
Yeah, absolutely. We love fried cheese.
We do.
Listen, cheese curds, fantastic.
So tater tot hot dish obviously gets all the attention when we think of iconic Minnesota foods, but maybe cream cheese wonton is Minnesota's definitive addition to world cuisine.
It really is.
Is it an addition if no one else is eating it?
So what we really need is just like a poll from our listeners outside of Minnesota, if there are any, to tell us like, could you please canvass your local Asian restaurants and just tell us how many of them have named cream cheese wontons on their menu versus crab rangoons?
Okay, so that's the food, but what did you find out about Leeann Chin herself, the person behind the wonton?
So when you're looking up like information about Leeann Chin, there's not a ton of it. And what I learned was Leeann Chin's born February 13th, 1933 in southern China. She's the daughter of a grocery store owner, and she ends up working at her father's store as a cashier, cleaner, stocking clerk, bicycle delivery, just kind of doing whatever odd jobs are needed. So the source that I found that had the most information about Leeann Chin's personal life was actually an interview that she did in 1992 for Twin Cities Public Television. And she talks a lot about her early life, her personal life, her relationships, all these things. And so we'll be playing several clips from that just so we can kind of hear her story in her own voice.
And I'll mention that we have lightly edited these clips for length and clarity, but we will post a link to the full unedited interview in the show notes.
And in the first one, she's telling an interviewer about her experience growing up and working at a grocery store.
My family is it's business. My father have restaurants and grocery store. We live in the upstairs of the grocery store. It's a pretty big grocery store. My father always need help. And when I go to school, all my friends and can go to movie and do things. And I never can. I have to go home and put my book down and have to go to work right away. I have worked so much.
So, like, not a super easy early life.
Yep.
What's surprising for someone who opens a restaurant is that Leeann Chin actually didn't grow up with, like, people in her family cooking in the household because they were in the grocery business and there was food being cooked for the grocery store. They would just eat that. So her family never really cooked as a family, but it does sound like her father had a lot of opinions on food and health and all of that and would frequently rant about that quite a bit. So she has a lot of experience listening to men ramble.
I learned a lot when I was little because my father talked about cooking and talk about food a lot every meal. Every meal we can't just eat. We have to listen to his lecturing every meal. I hated that time, but I didn't know I was learning so much from it. I always interested in cooking, but I never allowed to be in the kitchen. My mother never cooked when I was little. It's because when my father's business, we have cooks, we have people take care of house and all that.
So Leeann Chin talks about really being eager to leave her hometown. And it sounds like when she was at home, she felt like she couldn't be herself. She even says, like, I couldn't be myself. She's looking for opportunity. And I can't imagine that China in the 1930s was like a hip hop and cool time.
Right. Well, she would have been a kid during World War II and then a teenager during the Chinese Revolution. So definitely tumultuous times.
Yeah. The Communist Revolution happened when she was a teenager. And she talks about how that kind of changed her life and meant there's just less money to go around. And so her family can't really afford these staff anymore. And around that same time, she gets married to her husband. She's a teenager at this point. His name is Tony. And they move to Hong Kong. And then she talks about it kind of essentially being an arranged marriage. But we'll find out more in this clip.
When did you go to Hong Kong?
I went to Hong Kong to meet him. He lived in Hong Kong, and I was in Canton. We call Guangzhou now. His aunt and my aunt was neighbors. My aunt says, you should go meet my neighbor's nephew because you would like him. So I went to Hong Kong because it's a good excuse to leave China. And it just became a communist government, and everybody talk about how much you can do in Hong Kong and how much more opportunities. So always looking for a place I can do more.
Was it hard for you to leave your parents and then even leave China?
Oh, not at all. Not at all, because I can't be myself. Even I was in junior high, I helped my father so much. But the thing is, you don't get any result from you working hard, even you was just 12 years old and 13 years old. He never tell me I know how to do anything. All they says you have to do more and learn more.
So she heads to Hong Kong to get married, to get the hell out of there. And her husband's family seemed to have been from kind of a different socioeconomic class. And that led to a lot of them looking down on her and just not treating her very well, according to her story.
What happened when you got to Hong Kong?
I met him, and after 6 months, we got married.
What'd you think?
It's different because his family is more educated family. It's so different than my family. And I didn't know that they were supposed to be higher class than the business people.
Do you think that they were disappointed that their son married you?
It wasn't at first, but after they keep telling me that it's just because the country changed, and that's why I have opportunity to marry them. And if it was back before the old, that I would never have chance to step into their family. Oh, they look at me like I'm just a country dumb girl. That's how they look at me.
And how do they look at you now?
They're just polite. They probably think I'm just lucky. And it took me a long, long time to know that, doesn't matter anymore if I'm not good enough. Too bad, but I am good enough. I still not be good enough in there because I didn't have the rich parents.
Well, when did it change inside you that you were able to say to yourself, I am good enough?
As soon as I know how to make money.
Damn, Leeann.
Go, Leeann.
How great is that?
Well, it's just nuts.
It's interesting. It's so, I don't know. I feel like that whole conversation is so timeless.
Yeah.
And so cross-cultural. Like, there's always some sort of, like, hierarchy, and there's always marriages between it, or, like, friendships between, and sometimes you go in, especially if you're not the quote-unquote higher class, or more educated, or whatever. A lot of times you go in, and you don't really realize, or, like, have a consciousness of that always for a little while. And then you're like, oh no. And then it's kind of this little bit of being really hard on yourself or feeling really insecure before you realize you can do something just as good as them. And then you're like, wait a second, I'm fine. It sounds like other people that I know that have sort of gotten married within a 6-month time span. And sometimes you don't realize some of the background differences or whatever. I guess what I'm saying is, to me, it doesn't sound like it was arranged.
There's some article where she talks about it being like, not for love.
It's a marriage of economic convenience, which is most marriages throughout history.
And circumstantial convenience. And also, like, I don't know, I guess when I think arranged, I think of like a very like rigid process of like selection and things like that. I mean, tons of different cultures do that, where it's like, it's got to be someone of your own level in this way. And if not this way, then this way. And, you know, there's a lot of rules to it and it's more structured. I mean, if it was going to be that way, clearly, according to his family, he would have married someone of equal standing. But to me, it sounds, the way it would sound arranged is more like in a relational way. The aunts on both sides were talking to each other and saying like, oh, to me, it's pretty key that they said, go to Hong Kong and meet this guy. You'll probably like him. So it seems like even if it wasn't a love match, they got along to some level, which to me says not completely rigidly arranged.
So Leeann and Tony are only in Hong Kong for a couple years. In the time, they do manage to have 5 children. In 1956, she immigrates to the United States with her husband, and they end up settling in Minneapolis, Minnesota. They choose Minneapolis because Tony's sister, so her husband's sister, was already here in the restaurant business.
Apparently, in 1915, restaurants were added to the qualified businesses for merchant visas. So Chinese Americans could now find Chinese workers and sponsor their visas to move to America and work for restaurants.
Yeah. And so typically, as you do when you're immigrating, you move somewhere where there's people that you know. And so they moved somewhere to be with his family. Although it's interesting because you would think that family would help out family. But Leeann says that when she was getting her restaurant business started, they didn't help out at all because they disapproved of her. They thought she was lower class. They thought she didn't have what it would take. So Tony starts working as a technician at the photo lab at the U of M, and Leeann starts running a seamstress and like tailoring business out of her house. And it's her seamstress business that really takes off and lets her start out earning her husband, which she didn't love. But she's making food as thanks for her clients. So she was just like, people are coming to her house. She's sewing for them. She's doing like wedding dress alterations, things like that. And then to like, as like thanks for being her customer, she's like, hey, like, thank you. Here's some food. And they're loving it. They're like, hey, where, you know, can we get your recipes? Can you make this? And she's hosting these like lunches and these dinners, and they really like it. And she's almost certainly modifying her kind of traditional Cantonese and Sichuan cooking to fit the Midwestern palate of the 1950s, because I can't imagine that they were, I mean, maybe they were very adventurous eaters, I guess. Maybe I shouldn't assume that about them. But
I think you can assume that about them. My grandma, who is as Midwestern Minnesotan as it gets, considered ketchup to be too spicy.
Well, and also she just wouldn't have had access to a majority of the foods that she would have been used to cooking with. Like,
this is probably before there were a lot of like Asian grocery stores with a lot of the sort of ingredients and spices and things you'd need.
In this article I was reading, they were talking about like just Chinese cuisine in general in the US. They were working with just different amounts of things that were different from what they had originally, and different pricing too, because based on where you are, different ingredients are going to be more expensive. So prior to coming to America in the really early days, they didn't apparently have as much access to things like sugar or different types of oils, but they did have access to Sichuan peppers. And then when you come to America, you don't have very good access to those peppers anymore. You do have a lot of access to sugar and oil. And so the flavors...
That's where we get orange chicken.
Exactly. So the flavors start to change. And fortunately, all leading to the birth of the beautiful, wonderful cream cheese wonton.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of creativity that comes from working with these traditional recipes that are a certain way when you have access to certain ingredients. But she clearly had the knack for improvising with what she had on hand and making it amazing and addictive.
Yeah. So she's doing her best, and it's good. People like it. Her customers are always raving about it. They're asking that she like teaches them how to cook it. They want her to cater their events. Like they're super psyched about it.
So in other words, she's making a living as a seamstress, but the thing that she's actually getting known for is her food.
Yeah. And it gets to be so kind of beloved that they're asking her to cater parties that they're having. So it's going from just her being like, thanks so much for your business, like, let me cook you dinner, to will you cook dinner for this this thing. And these ladies love it. They've never had anything like it. There are few authentic and good Chinese restaurants available to the beautiful people of Minneapolis, Minnesota.
And especially at that time, like I think it's in the late 70s and 80s that a lot of immigration really starts to pick up. But at this point, there's just not that big of a community here.
Yeah. And so this is like exciting food. And they can't get it anywhere. And so they want to cook it at home. And so they're saying, like, you should be teaching classes. Like, you need to show everybody how to do this. And Leeann Chin's like, I don't think I can do that. Like, when she moves to America, she doesn't speak any English. She's
a mother of five.
A lot's going on, but they insist. And so she starts just teaching classes out of her house for these women. And she works her way up to having 10 classes a week of people, and eventually expands it into the Creative Learning Center in Edina and has over 5,000 students. And she ends up saving enough money to get a yellow Ford Pinto, which really got the engine revving on her catering business.
Oh, boy.
And then she's using that to kind of drive around, catering these events. But it's at one of these events that she's catering with her daughter. She had 5 children, many of which who helped out with the business, that Sean Connery turned to her daughter, who was working the event, and said, and the daughter quotes, "Nice dumplings."
Nice dumplings.
Okay, so Sean Connery wound up at one of her Minneapolis catering events?
Yeah, so she's catering an event in Minneapolis, and it's when the owner of the Minnesota Twins, Carl Pohlad?
Pohlad, yeah.
Pohlad.
Billionaire banker, but yeah, best known as the owner of the Twins.
Yeah, who just happened to be friends with Sean Connery, has her cater an event where Sean Connery is.
In Minnesota.
And it says that he was in town visiting his friend Robert Redford, who was filming the 1980 movie Ordinary People, which did not film in Minnesota. I could not find any information about them filming here.
So I'm just Googling, trying to find connections. Here it says, in 1979, a socialite friend of Chin's landed her a gig catering a party thrown by Minnesota Twins owner Carl Pohlad to welcome Sean Connery to town. Connery was in Minnesota to visit his friend Robert Redford, who was shooting Ordinary People in and around Chicago. So it seems that what happened is Redford's in Chicago, Carl Pohlad is friends with Redford, and so he's like, come on up, it's not that far from Chicago.
Yeah, and then Sean Connery came. But Sean Connery's there, and I guess he turns to Leeann Chin's daughter and just is like, nice dumplings. And Sean Connery loved it, and he actually ends up investing money into her business. And it's with a cash infusion from Pohlad and Connery that she's able to start the first Leeann Chin's in Minnetonka. And it's one of the first restaurants in the Twin Cities that offers Cantonese and Sichuan cuisine. So this is like huge and exciting. People know that Sean Connery likes it. When they open, it's hugely popular. It starts as this like expansive 100 menu item fine dining establishment.
So like full sit down, full service, not beautiful. The buffet style mall kind of restaurant.
No, and she's 47 years old when they open this first restaurant.
It's pretty crazy to immigrate to a new country, to like support yourself as a seamstress, and then to suddenly pivot in your late 40s and make it huge in like the chain restaurant business after starting as a sit down meal. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
The first Leeann Chin's is founded in 1980, and it's at the Bonaventure Mall in Minnetonka, Minnesota.
Then at Bonaventure, and that time the mall was new, just built, and they were looking for cooking instructor. They want a cooking school there. So I said, oh, that's wonderful. But, after you talk, and it's just so much money. And I said, well, I couldn't make enough money to pay for it. So finally, after a year talking to them, they says, why don't you open a restaurant? That's more business. Because every day business, you probably can pay for all the kitchen equipment you needed. So I said, okay, let's talk about that. And that's how the restaurant started.
It doesn't sound like it was even a dream at that point. It was already going. Like it wasn't one of those things where, oh, I have this great idea that I want to do X, Y, or Z. I'm going to see if I can get demand for this business. Like there was literally already demand, and she was just kind of walking through those doors that were opening. She was doing something else. She wasn't just like jumping into this thing asking for like capital for this crazy startup. It was like people were already asking her, like, please teach us these classes. Please cook us this food. Like she was meeting demand. She wasn't trying to like just raise something that wasn't already there.
Yeah, it wasn't as crazy as if I said I'm going to start a restaurant.
Yes.
Right. And we would all say, Alex,
you don't cook.
Yeah. It becomes really popular. And the restaurant does really well. She has over 100 menu items. A lot of them are created and developed by her. She's inspecting the food. Like, she is very hands-on and very involved with all of it. It's a sit-down dining room. Menus are beautiful. It's an immediate success. Food's selling out. And she pretty quickly had to convert it to an 80-seat buffet style just to keep up with demands. Wow. Like, she had these recipes that took days to develop. Like, the food has to cook for days and days to be good. And she was like, well, this is crazy. We've got to make this a buffet. So she's running that for 4 years. She opens her second location in Union Depot in downtown St. Paul in 1984.
So it's like in traveling centers right away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, just imagine it's 1984. You're smoking 20 cigarettes. You come to Union Depot. There she is, Leeann Chin's. Whoa.
Yeah.
That's huge. And then she opens her third one in the International Design Center, IDC, in Minneapolis that same year. So 1984 is a big year for Leeann Chin's. There's another Minneapolis location, and they're serving more than 1,000 customers on an average business day. So it's popping off. And they're doing a lot of decently innovative cooking, including, of course, inventing the cream cheese wonton.
Interesting.
And Leeann Chin ends up selling it to General Mills.
That's like the 500th time General Mills has made an appearance in our podcast.
General Mills eventually buys everything.
And it's in 1985 that she sells. She's been running the day-to-day operations. She's sold the rights to her name and her restaurants to General Mills, but she regained ownership in 1988.
So General Mills didn't actually have it that long.
No, and I'm not quite sure what happened there, but she gets it back. They end up setting up in the 1990s. It's a lot more fast food by this point, probably a lot more similar to how we know it today. And they're starting to set up a lot of those like Byerly's grocery store locations. So like I remember going to Byerly's as a kid and getting like wontons and like pot stickers and stuff at the grocery store.
That actually might be the first place I ever had it.
In like 2010, there's more than 40 locations, and most of them are in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. She continued like just being really successful as a cook. Like she taught a lot of cooking courses, and she wrote a bunch of cookbooks. She had a cooking show on PBS, which I never knew, and she had 3 cookbooks on Chinese cuisine. She collaborates with Betty Crocker,
who, to be clear, is a brand, not a person.
To the real Betty. She's appearing in like TV segments.
Yeah.
We'll meet one of the Twin Cities' most popular chefs. She's Leeann Chin, known throughout this area for her delicious Chinese cuisine.
So Leeann provides some interesting context to her relationship. You know, you would assume that being this like multi-million-dollar company owner or boss lady who was great and cool, that she would have been respected and valued by her husband. But it seems like that really wasn't the case.
What did your husband think?
He was against it completely. He said, you're a woman, and even men have hard time running a restaurant, and who would come work for you? Because Chinese cook, they don't take instruction from women, especially you, he said. You never in business before.
What did you say?
Well, I grew up in an old-fashioned home. I'm not supposed to talk so much. So I didn't say anything, and I just try to find a way that I don't need him to help me, but I need him to sign because the house have his name, and I need the house to borrow money. And then I try to tell him that I can do it, but it took long time before he would sign the paper. Long time.
How long?
About 6 months. So I talked to the bank for a long time, and we finally, I don't know what happened. He finally signed it. But he still don't think I can do it.
Still now or still then?
Then. And now he just think I'm lucky.
But how do you feel towards him, even now, when you've been so successful, and he says to you, you were just lucky?
I already kind of set my mind that long time ago that many Chinese men, they grow up in a home that they don't respect women. He still think we live, old time that you have to just be a good housewife. That's all my duty is.
Do you walk around angry all the time at him?
Yes. But I already make up my mind that it doesn't matter what he said. I have to do it my way. It took me a long time to think that because my children are grow up now, and I know what I'm doing, what I want to achieve, and I just do it. But sometimes it's hard because you want to make peace at home. You don't want it make him angry. lots of times, even I getting award and getting really good recognition, I don't go home and tell him because I don't want him to think that I do better than him. Thank goodness I have all my children, then I can tell them and instead him.
And they're supportive of you?
Really supportive. I have such a good friends with the children's. I think I have. I don't know what they think, but I think I have.
It is wild to be that unsupportive of someone
who's so
who
obviously
is
successful.
literally supporting you.
Yeah.
No, it's a very classic thing of it's like a man feels like he recognizes that he's not able to do the thing he thinks he should, and he takes it out on her instead of just like being in awe of his super great wife.
And it's just so sad because it's like, no, you should be able to both be really proud of yourselves and each other. Like you should be each other's cheerleaders.
You should be proud that your wife is kicking butt, like is doing amazing things.
Yeah, and like how much more successful could both of you be if you were both cheerleading for each other rather than one of you feeling like you have to diminish yourself to make the other one not feel so bad. That's just so sad. But she's also like so expressive, and I feel like very, I don't know, you can tell she's really thought through a lot of things and come to some strong conclusions.
The thing that struck me listening to this whole interview that we're pulling clips from is it seems like throughout her whole life until her kids were grown, she had nobody close to her that was supportive. Her parents didn't seem to value her work or let her be herself, in her words. Her husband didn't seem supportive, and definitely was the opposite of supportive when it came to her wanting to do a business.
It was really just her, Sean Connery, and those ladies against the world.
Right. And her in-laws weren't supportive. It says so much about her that she went out and achieved so much anyway. It's hard to make a successful business. It's hard to make a successful career in anything. And to do that while constantly people are telling you, no, you can't do this, you're not good enough for this, and then showing them wrong, like, good job, Leeann.
Yeah. It's that idea of like walking a straight line towards what you want. And it sounds like even from, she talks about like back in junior high, it sounds like she was that way.
Yeah.
You can see the through line of exactly like who she was in junior high, who she was when she got married, who she is now that she's massively successful. Very focused. And there's like an independence and confidence there that's so cool.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very interesting to listen to how self-assured she is when she's talking about it, where she's like, yeah, but I know that I could do it. And
like,
I knew,
where do you get that kind of self-assurance if everyone's always been on your case? That's crazy. Also, like, not just the people who were not supporting her or actively against her, but like, I can not think of many things in her situation that were not against her either.
Yeah.
Like, she was, quote unquote, a country girl. Like, she's not from the big city. And so she doesn't have as many like opportunities business wise. She is a woman. She's in a very traditional kind of patriarchal society that does not look for women to do these things. And her country's under
moment of chaos.
Yes. And communism has just come in. There's a huge amount of upheaval. She doesn't live in the right city. So she goes there, and then she's an immigrant in a new country, learning a new language. And, you know, it's just all these things. And
with
she just
5
kind of
kids in tow.
Yeah. And she just like with what sounds like no support around her. And she just kept going.
Yeah.
Did what she wanted to do.
But she did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, and kind of a testament to like the women in her life a little bit, because she says like she did it because the people she was a seamstress for were like, no, you should do this.
Yeah.
Well, and
they're the real support.
Well, and the aunts too were the ones who created the opportunity for her to leave. So it's kind of like a hand up kind of situation, even though nothing is perfect. Like, if those aunts hadn't been neighbors and talking to each other and being like, hey, maybe this would be a chance for my niece to get out of her little town, we wouldn't have the cream cheese wonton.
So tell us, where does Leeann Chin go from its expansion in the 1980s and 90s?
Yeah, so they kind of go through a brand identity crisis. Like, the late 90s, early 2000s hit, and there's just a lot more competition. Panda Express is coming in. Like, it's a little bit harder for them. They try to partner with Byerly's, and that's like moderately successful, but it's not as successful as they need it to be. And so it's not dying by any means, but I think that there are less locations now than there used to be. It's not this like behemoth of a company anymore.
Is Leeann Chin still alive?
No, she died at 77.
In 2010?
2010, yeah. She actually had moved up to Seattle, Washington by that point. And so she died in Seattle, Washington at the age of 77 and is buried in Lakewood Cemetery.
Well, thank you, Josie, for I will certainly appreciate cream cheese wontons more when I eat them now that I know they are a regional delicacy.
Yeah.
And on that note, I'm actually pretty hungry. So I say, let's go get some Leeann Chins.
And that's it for this episode. We'll be back next time with another deep dive into Minnesota's storied past. You can find detailed show notes for this and all episodes at minnesotaunknown.com/podcast. We'll post a link there to each episode along with features such as accompanying images, links to more info, and lists of sources cited. If you have questions, comments, corrections, complaints, or compliments, please email us at info@minnesotaunknown.com. We'd truly love to hear from you. Unless it's mean, and then I'll cry. You can find Minnesota Unknown wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to subscribe or follow so you don't miss an episode. And if you have a moment to rate and review, that would really help others find us. We also give history walking tours around the Twin Cities. To learn more about our current and upcoming tours, head to minnesotaunknown.com. Minnesota Unknown is produced, hosted, written, and researched by Hannah Norton, Josie Bergman, and Alex Weston. Our theme song is by Union Shakedown. This episode is copyright 2026 by Minnesota Unknown, LLC. All rights reserved.
Ford Pintos, though, aren't they like historically really dangerous, though?
Probably because it was too full of farts. Because of the pinto bean. Hey, for listeners at home who can't see Alex's face, he was deeply confused.
Alex has to edit this podcast, and he's about to cry.
Boss bitch, am I right? Let's cut that.
You're the man now, dog.
What?
That was a Sean Connery line in the 2002 film Finding Forrester, which was very memed in the pre-YouTube early internet era.
I like that you're explaining this like we're leaving it in the episode.
I'm explaining this because I'm 100% leaving this in the episode.